Hey everyone, welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're going to be doing something a little different. We're going to be talking about how to make your creative work stand out from the crowd.
Ooh, I like that.
So the inspiration for this deep dive is an article by James Clear called Stay on the Bus, The Proven Path to Doing Unique and Meaningful Work.
Oh, yeah, I've read that one. It's a good one.
It is, and it draws on a commencement speech given by Arno Raphael Minkinen, a photographer,
Oh, right.
at the New England School of Photography back in 2004.
Wow, okay.
Now, the speech is famous for this phrase, stay on the fucking bus, when it comes to creative work.
Yeah, that's a pretty memorable piece of advice. I mean, it's not every day you hear a commencement speaker drop the F-bomb.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to be exploring today. What does it mean to stay on the bus when it comes to creative work? And how can we apply this advice to our own lives?
That's good to me.
All right, so let's start by painting a picture for our listener. What exactly is the Helsinki bus station theory all about?
Well, imagine you're standing at the Helsinki bus station. Lots of platforms, buses, all lined up, ready to head out of the city. Each bus represents a different creative path an artist might take. Early on, a lot of artists' work might look pretty similar, like all those buses leaving the station and following the same route.
Right, like when you're first starting out, you're kind of just figuring things out, experimenting, trying to find your voice.
Exactly. And Minkinen, being a photographer himself, talked about how a lot of young photographers feel like they're just rehashing stuff that's already been done, like they're not really bringing anything new to the table.
It's like you take a piece to a gallery and all you hear is, oh, that reminds me of so-and-so.
Yep. Been there.
It's tough. It can be pretty discouraging.
Yeah, for sure. And that's where this bus stop analogy comes in. Minkinen uses each bus stop to represent a year in a photographer's career. As those buses keep going, their routes start to diverge, they start heading towards different destinations, and that's where the stay on the bus part comes in.
Okay, so even if you feel like you're not creating something totally unique at this exact moment, you've got to stick with it. You got to stay on the bus.
Exactly. Because that's how you develop your own unique style. It's like Clear says in his article, separation leads to distinction. The further you travel on your bus, the more your work separates itself from the pack, and that's where those breakthrough moments happen.
I see. So it's not just about working hard, it's also about working smart and staying focused on your own journey.
Exactly. And, Clear also pushes back on that whole idea of like 10,000 hours automatically equals expertise. He says it's not that simple.
Right. Like just because you spend 10,000 hours doing something doesn't mean you're going to be good at it.
Exactly. You could spend years in college taking classes, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're retaining all that information. Or you could write thousands of emails.
Right.
But that doesn't make you a novelist. Clear says it's not just about mindless repetition, it's about deliberate practice.
Okay. So it's not just about how much you work, it's about how you work.
Yeah. It's about actively revising your work, constantly seeking feedback, and being willing to make changes. It's like those photographers who keep hopping from bus to bus.
Oh, yeah.
They never give themselves the chance to really develop their own unique vision.
So how can our listener apply this stay on the bus idea to their own lives? I mean, how do they figure out what their bus even is in the first place?
That's a great question. I think it starts with identifying the area where you want to create something, contribute something meaningful. It could be writing, it could be building a business, it could be researching, it could be anything where you're creating and revising your work over time.
Okay, so the bus is really just a metaphor for commitment to a craft.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's natural to wonder, like, am I even on the right bus? How would you respond to that question?
Honestly, I don't think there's always a clear-cut answer. What matters is that you commit to the path you've chosen and you give it your all. That's how you unlock your potential, even if you're not sure if it's the right path.
So instead of constantly doubting yourself, just focus on making the most of the journey you're on.
Exactly. Because that continuous process of creation, revision, and refinement, that's where you discover what you're truly capable of.
It's funny, thinking about all this.
Yeah.
It strikes me that we often don't give ourselves enough time to really let our work evolve.
Oh, absolutely. That's such a good point.
Like we're so focused on the end product.
Right. Right.
That we forget that the journey itself is just as important.
Yeah, and I think one aspect that often gets overlooked is the role of time in all of this. Think about those early works that Minkinen mentioned, the ones that might seem kind of derivative or imitative at first.
Yeah.
As time passes and as the artist continues to grow and evolve, those early pieces take on a whole new meaning. It's like looking back at old photos of yourself.
Right.
You might cringe a little bit, but you can also see how far you've come.
Totally. So those early bus stops, they become more significant in retrospect. It's not just about comparing yourself to others at that point in time. It's about seeing how those early experiences fit into the larger picture of your creative journey.
Exactly. And when we reach the final destination, whether that's the end of a career or even a lifetime, the entire journey becomes visible. All the twists and turns, all the ups and downs.
Right.
It's a journey that's unique precisely because the artist stayed on their bus.
That's such a powerful image. And it reminds me of something Clear wrote about in his article about the importance of rework, not just work.
Yes.
He argues that those photographers who keep switching buses, they never really give themselves the chance to refine their ideas, to really dig deep into their crafts.
It's about going beyond just producing new work and really diving into that process of revisiting, rethinking, revising.
Right.
True mastery emerges when we kind of dig deeper into our craft, hone our skills, push our boundaries. That's where deliberate practice comes in.
Okay, so let's talk about that for a second. How can our listener actually put rework into practice? Like, let's say you're a software developer. What would rework look like in your day-to-day work?
That's a great question. So for a software developer, rework might involve going back and revisiting old code, like looking for ways to improve its efficiency or its elegance. It could also mean seeking feedback from other developers and, being open to incorporating their suggestions. It's about taking the time to reflect on past projects and identifying areas for growth.
I see. So it's not just about churning out new lines of code.
No.
It's about constantly striving to improve what you've already created.
Exactly. And I think this applies to any field, not just creative pursuits. Whether you're a teacher refining their lesson plans, a marketer analyzing campaign results,
Right.
even a chef experimenting with new recipes, that principle of deliberate practice is essential for growth.
Yeah, I think that resonates with everyone. We all want to get better at what we do right.
Absolutely.
You've mentioned deliberate practice a few times now. Could you break that down a bit more for our listener? Like, what does it actually look like in practice?
Sure. So deliberate practice is about being really intentional with your efforts.
Right.
Constantly seeking feedback and making adjustments along the way. It's not just about clocking in hours, it's about making those hours count. So if you're a writer, it might mean setting aside dedicated time to revise a chapter.
Right.
Even if that means scrapping entire paragraphs or, reworking whole sections. Or if you're a musician, it might mean practicing a difficult passage over and over again until you get it just right. It's about actively seeking feedback from editors or beta readers or teachers or mentors and being open to their suggestions.
So I think what we're getting at here is that staying on the bus isn't about being stubborn and refusing to change course.
Right.
It's about having that commitment to your craft and trusting the process of refinement.
Exactly.
And who knows, maybe those early works that seemed imitative at first,
Yeah.
maybe those will become the foundation for something truly original down the line.
I think that's a great way to put it. The Helsinki bus station theory encourages us to see the value in persistence and dedication. It reminds us that the journey is just as important as the destination, and that originality often emerges from a deep commitment to our craft.
This has been such a thought-provoking conversation. Before we wrap up, though, I want to circle back to that idea of choosing the right bus.
Yeah,
It can feel pretty overwhelming at times, especially when you're first starting out.
you're right. Choosing your path can be a daunting task. But here's the thing. The Helsinki bus station theory isn't just about finding the perfect path.
Oh.
It's about making the most of the path you choose.
So it's less about finding the right bus and more about making your bus the right one.
Exactly. It's about bringing your unique perspective, your passion, your dedication to whatever you choose to pursue. Embrace the journey and trust that the destination will kind of evolve as you go.
Yeah, that definitely takes some of the pressure off. It's not about having all the answers right away.
Yeah.
It's more about being open to exploration and discovery along the way.
Absolutely. It's liberating to realize that you don't need to have everything figured out from the start. The journey itself is where the real learning and growth happens.
And thinking back to Minkkinen's own journey, he faced a lot of criticism early on,
Oh, yeah.
a lot of comparisons to other photographers, but he stuck to his vision. He kept refining his craft.
Yeah.
And eventually, he carved out his own unique space in the world of photography.
He really did.
It really speaks to the power of persistence, doesn't it?
It does. And, it's important to remember that success isn't linear.
Right.
There will be bumps in the road, moments of doubt times when you question your choices.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's in those moments of uncertainty that we have the opportunity to really dig deep, to learn and to grow.
That's such a good point. And I think that's what makes the Helsinki bus station theory so appealing.
Mm-hmm.
It offers a sense of hope and encouragement. It tells us that it's okay to not have all the answers figured out right away.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to experiment, to make mistakes along the way.
Yeah, it's all part of the process.
And it reminds us that the journey itself is where the real value lies.
Exactly. It's in that process of creating, of refining, of discovering our own unique voice that we find true fulfillment. And it's about embracing the challenges and the detours and even the wrong turns, because those are often the experiences that shape us the most.
As we wrap up this deep dive into the Helsinki bus station theory,
Yeah.
what's the one key takeaway you want to leave our listeners with?
That's a good question. I think instead of asking yourself, am I on the right bus?
Okay.
The more empowering question to ask is, how can I make this bus, my bus, take me somewhere truly remarkable?
I love that. It's a call to action, an invitation to take ownership of your creative journey and make it your own. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the Helsinki bus station theory. We hope you found it insightful and inspiring. Until next time, keep exploring, keep creating, and keep on riding your bus.